Hey everyone, how you doing? It is our expert series, and as you know by now, on Mondays we start off fast. We bring on Greg Dickerson. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Post Super Bowl Sunday, Super Bowl Monday.
Yeah, there you go, there you go. So, hey, one of the first things everybody viewing this needs to realize is Greg takes this hour seriously. He actually pulled over while he was on his way to look at deals and stuff, and said, "You know what? I'm gonna pull over, have this conversation from his car." So do me a favor in the comment section when you view this, give Greg some love, give him a shout out, let him know you appreciate these weekly sessions because he doesn't have to do them, but he enjoys the conversation and enjoys helping you. So do me a favor in comments right now, give Greg a shout out. And Greg, why don't you talk about your YouTube channel because I watch it and it's awesome. Why don't you give it a plug here real quick?
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is just Greg Dickerson. My website, gregdickerson.com. It has my YouTube. I also put that into podcast format. So everything on YouTube is also a podcast for people that like to listen to audio. And I put it out on LinkedIn, Facebook, and share it everywhere. But, thank you for what you do, Michael. You've been doing this daily thing for what, a couple of years now?
Couple of years, yep.
Yeah. So it takes commitment, it takes dedication. I put stuff out every single day, and I know you put stuff out every day, and I appreciate what you're doing. But yeah, it's important. I remember at one point I started getting busy because I'm on the road a lot, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be pulling over and doing this in the car. But you know what? You were like, hey man, people love the show and love the content, and I see the comments that people make. I don't reply to comments on your channel because that's your channel, and I try to let I'm staying away from your audience, let you do that. But I do see the comments, I read them and stuff like that. So it seems like people are enjoying it, getting a lot out of it. So
Yeah,
I think it's important to carve time and share what we've learned over the our careers and our lifetime.
Yeah, and that's that. Thank you for that. And yeah, and just so you know, if you want to leave a comment, go for it. I don't mind. This is our thing, and I hope it grows your channel because again, I watch your channel. So, folks, if you watch mine, you need to check out Greg. And the reason you're part of the expert series, and I've built the expert series on purpose, is everybody is different. You're the guy who buys businesses. You're the guy that develops ground up. You're the guy that's in and out a lot. So that goes to the topic number one of our 3-part series. And that is share with us some deals you've done, maybe start in real estate. And then more importantly, let's talk about businesses that have come across your radar. So what you got, what you been up to?
So, right now, as you know, single family is on fire. So I've shifted my focus to land development. So I am trying to feed the appetite of builders looking for lots. So that's kind of what I'm focused on right now. And I've got some different projects I'm working on all over the place with that. But that's where it's at right now. The housing market is just incredibly on fire. Most every other type of asset, you know, the cap rates are compressed, and every type of real estate except for maybe office and retail, depending on where you're at. And there's still some good retail plays. There was a deal I just passed this morning that a former bank that closed at a prime corner location just was converted to a Starbucks with a drive-through.
Hmm.
So there's still growth. There's still retail growth. There's still restaurant growth going on. There's a lot of restaurants expanding, a lot of retail expanding. I saw an Old Navy and gosh, what was the other retailer that just opened up in a shopping center in a small town just outside of where I live? So retail's still expanding, restaurants still expanding, but it's the right kind of stuff. So there are deals out there. And I tell you right now, if you're sitting on land or you know where land is, builders are dying for lots and for buildable land right now. So that's a great little play right now. And, either entitlement flips or take them to full development, deliver finished lots.
That's amazing. And this just goes to show you, I mean, we've mentioned this a couple of times. We both read Rich Dad Poor Dad, decades ago. That's just how old we are. Decades ago. Oh, that hurts to say. But it's funny again.
1997. Yeah, I read it in 1997.
Yeah, so literally decades, right? So I think I was probably 99. It had to be 99 or 2000 after I
Hmm.
suffered that huge stock market loss. But anyways, I digress. I've said this many times. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm like, shit, I need to go be Robert and Kim. You read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you're like, I'm gonna go be Rich Dad. This is just
Yeah.
another example of that, right? I look at the current situation and I want to get houses. You look at it and go, you're such an idiot. Why don't you go to the front of the food chain and buy some finished lots? And God, I don't look at the problem
Well,
the
it's
right
just,
way.
asset prices are just through the roof right now. So yeah, you can buy houses, but to buy one under market value at a good deal is very difficult.
Yeah.
Everybody's after them. Retail buyers are bidding them up. So there are some strategies there, and we could talk about that. There's people call it slow flip, or however you want to call it, but there's some strategies for for rental houses that work and make a lot of sense. But for the most part, you're not going to get a house under market
Yeah.
significantly, or at least a lot of them right now. So who's paying, and that's what you got to do. Where's the market? Who's looking for deals, and go serve that market.
And again, you just look at the equation differently than me. And I'll say better. Well, no, let's just say differently, right? Because judgment is okay, just differently, right? You look at the current environment, single family homes. Your answer is I'm going to go where, again, really where not a lot of people are looking, right? All the noise and momentum is single family, compete with owner occupants, slow flip, big flip, door knocking, mailers, all this stuff, all wholesaler. And you're like, nope, I'm going to go to land because not a lot of people are looking at land. And it's just amazing how
Exactly.
it's amazing how your mind works. And that's folks, if you're not paying attention to this, we just gave you a place to look that not a lot of people are. So I appreciate that. So
Yeah,
let's
and
get,
just real quick on that, so you can identify raw land for development if you have a relationship with a seller. I had a good friend of mine that made $10 million on a land flip. He did nothing more than have a relationship with a woman. The property was in her estate, was, I don't know, 100 acres just outside of DC. He went and got it under contract, assigned that contract, did a wholesale assignment of that contract to a national builder, made $10 million. Didn't do anything. Now, that's few and far between, but it is out there, it's possible. So it could be something like that. You could find just a parcel, but generally it's got to be something that's not marketed actively, because most developers are going to know about the active stuff, or it's something that needs a couple little things figured out in order to make it buildable, or maybe it's a redevelopment play, or you carve off a piece of an existing property, whatever. There's a number of ways to do it. You can either flip the land raw to a developer, you can get it entitled, meaning permitted, ready to build, and ready to put the infrastructure in, assign that or sell that, flip it to a developer, or you can go ahead and take it full cycle all the way through. So that's three different opportunities right there with raw land, and building sitting on land that can be redeveloped, or a boundary line adjustment. You move the property line so that it carves off a buildable piece of property.
just amazing, just amazing. So let's flip the script again. Of my experts, you're the only one that I'm aware of that's actively looking at deals or businesses. So why don't we talk
Mhm.
about a business or two that came across your radar, why you did or didn't do the deal? Because it's an interesting play.
So a barbecue franchise. So I've got one of my business associates that I've known for a long time is getting into the franchise industry, and he came to me with a barbecue franchise opportunity. They've got 3 or 4 locations open. He thinks they have a great menu, great unique selling proposition, and all that, and says, "Hey, we're going to franchise this thing. We're going to sell, 100 of them, and take it nationwide." And showed me all the numbers and said, "Hey, this thing's going to be an EBITDA play over 5 or 7 years after we sell 100 of them, and we'll be able to flip the whole thing for $80 million." It was a small investment, 300 grand for 10% equity in the company or something like that. I can't remember, the specifics, but something like that. So insignificant investment amount, and he was surprised when I turned it down. And and he hasn't really asked me why. He just said, "I'm surprised you turned it down." And I already told him from the beginning, when he started talking to me about it, I said, "I'm not really interested in restaurants right now." It's, if you're a restaurateur, it's a great time. There's a lot of locations you can get into with little or no money and get reopened quick once we get through the pandemic, or now with takeout, curbside, whatever you want to do. But in general, there's a lot of competition. The food service industry is very difficult right now. And when he presented me the opportunity, he missed three main points that you need to look at right now, especially if you're going to do a franchise concept. So if you're going to be a franchisor and you want to sell franchises to franchisees, there's one or two things that are extremely important. He didn't hit on either one of those
Mm.
right out of the gate. So his first few minutes, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing a deal with this guy, because he just didn't even think about this. And then the last part is he didn't think about the current environment of what's going on and how the minimum wage will affect a barbecue franchise
Yeah.
and the profitability of it. So his numbers are way off because he wasn't even taking into account taxes, minimum wage, increased, food costs and things like that moving forward, because of what's going on right now. So it was really interesting. So I turned it down, and he was upset, and he couldn't figure it out. He said, "Man, 300 grand, that's nothing." I'm like, "Yeah, but it doesn't matter." I said, "I'm not going to throw money away."
Yeah.
I'm like, this thing's not going to work.
So real quick, you mentioned right up front, you sort of hit number three, but I didn't catch at least what the two things he missed up front. What were those two things he missed?
So all he talked about was how how many franchises he's going to sell, how easy it's going to be, how much money he's going to make,
Mm.
how much money I'm going to make, how much money the company's going to be worth. He never once mentioned
Oh,
how this is going to be good for the franchisee.
got it.
Not once.
Got it. Okay.
So that's number one. How when you have an opportunity, the first thing you got to think about, and I made a video on my YouTube channel the other day, where 90% of the people go wrong is
Yeah.
they focus on the money first instead of
Yes.
the deal or the opportunity.
I
So
love that.
right out of the gate, all he talked about was how much money we're going to make, how much money's his, how much money's mine. All this is great, but he never once mentioned how this is going to help the franchisee, how it's going to help the individual, how it's going to be out from the first few minutes.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's I get the same spidey sense. I'm now getting more and more people coming to me looking to, be a private money partner, a JV, the money side, all of that. And again, most of them focus on the money or the exit first, which I'm not
Hmm.
interested in, right? Warren Buffett has lots of sayings. The one I love, one of the many, right? Top three is rule number one is don't lose money, right? Don't lose your capital. So if you're not talking to me up front about how you're going to control and make sure you're going to, in your case, 300 grand, in my case, maybe 50 grand. Um, the exit's not important to me. There's lots of exits I could do, right? I want to understand how you're going to de-risk this situation, and I want to understand your reputation, and I want to understand how your money's up first, and my money's not at risk. People don't. That's when I run away. It's like when you're out here just looking at the end and not realizing this is going to be hard and there's risks and this environment can punch you in the nose. Who would have guessed politicians are going against the U.S. Constitution, Fifth Amendment, and the taking clause? I mean, tell me about how it's going to operate in the real world. Get your head out of the Excel spreadsheet. I don't care about the Excel spreadsheet.
Well, that was number two. So number two was, it's 300 grand. That's a drop in the bucket to you. So, that was disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care how much money you have, how hard I had to work to get where I'm at,
Yeah.
and how hard I have to work to keep it and to protect it and preserve it. And I've said it over and over again with people that are looking to raise capital. The number one thing that your more sophisticated investors are concerned with is preservation of capital.
Yes.
We've worked hard. I've been doing this since 1997 as a self-employed individual, and I worked in the private sector, and where our corporate world, before that, from, time I got out of, well, before high school, I was working jobs, and I went in the Navy, and I worked, a couple of different jobs until I started my own company in 97. So, I mean, this is up 30 years, 35 years. I've been building my career and building what I have. I'm not going to just throw it away flippantly,
Yeah.
just because it's an insignificant amount in relation to, whatever, net worth
Yep.
or cash that I have. So, so that was disrespectful and inconsiderate. And, so those two things right out of the gate, I was out, because I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not somebody I'm going to do business with. They're not even
Exactly.
thinking about these things. Now, there's investors out there, and usually the less sophisticated investors, all they care about is the deal and the multiples and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually how you know whether somebody knows or not, right? It's kind of like the poker table.
Mm.
A sucker the minute he sits down,
Yep.
and if you don't know who the sucker is, it's you. So
Amen to that. Yeah. Uh,
remember that when you walk into a poker room.
Yeah, exactly. And you're so right about being disrespectful. I have my core set of people that's pretty tight, probably less than 10 people. But then that second one is probably hundreds of people at this point, maybe even a couple hundred.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, probably monthly, somebody in that second circle says, hey, I need this, or somebody in my network needs that. And you're right. They're just disrespectful. That's
Yeah. And,
that's a great word.
opportunity is created by solving big problems, serving others, and putting other people ahead of yourself. So the first thing you got to think about is, how is this going to benefit the other party? That's number one. Number two, how are we going to make the deal happen? Then you think about how we're going to divide it up, who's going to do what, and what share, and all that. But the first two things are, what problem am I solving? Who am I helping? How am I serving? How can I get this thing going? Then we'll talk about splits and this and that, who gets what. That's important, but you got to figure out, do you even have a deal to begin with?
Yeah.
And when I say, the other thing that was really inconsiderate was not one mention of how that would be good for a franchisee. The whole purpose of a franchise is to have a system and an operation that's going to be successful for an individual. These people might put their life savings into this, and not once was that mentioned, that this is somebody stepping into a franchise because they're looking for a long-term, maybe even a life-changing opportunity to invest their life savings many times into a business, So how are we going to make sure that they are successful and that this is the best thing for the franchisee? So those are the first couple of things I look at in anything like that. And then number three, the biggest thing was restaurants are the least profitable franchise you can get into right now. They have the lowest margins, they have the most, the highest labor costs, the highest food costs. You're susceptible, to food cost changes at the whim of the suppliers because food's a commodity. It's up and down. Pork's been through the roof lately with the pandemic, with the supply shortages and all that. He didn't mention any of that and how he's going to mitigate all that. So I knew right out of the gate his numbers were way off. All he was talking about was how many franchises he was going to sell, how many fees he was going to earn being a franchise seller. Um, I mean, right now, if you want to buy a franchise, man, cleaning, janitorial companies, cleaning companies, staffing companies, at home, in-home healthcare, those types of things. I mean, those are seriously profitable franchises that you can exponentially grow right now that are throwing off tons of cash. And they're great for everybody. They're great for the franchisee. They're great for, clients. But anyways, that's a different conversation.
Yeah. Well, this has been exactly what I was looking for. You gave our audience, again, two things to think about: where some money could be made up in land and lots and feeding that. And the other one, if you're out there looking to raise some money from some people that have it, a lot of great tips there, Greg. I appreciate episode number 1. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, man.